What's going on, everybody? Today I am working on the 94 Nissan 300ZX or Z32, the naturally aspirated one. We are working on something simple, just comparing spacers for the wheels. So right now the car's sitting with 1-inch spacers, and what I have here is a 2-inch spacer with a 1/2-inch stud, and this is an 1.5-inch spacer with a metric size stud. But the main difference why I had these 2-inch spacers on there, and with this wheel setup, the studs were too thick for the rims. So I went with a smaller diameter stud. You can see here the metric stud. And I think it's a 12 millimeter by 1.25. That's what it is. 12 millimeter by 1.25. And this is a 1/2 by 20. So 1/2 by 20 standard size. So you can see the thickness difference. Makes a huge difference, plus the 1/2-inch thinner. You can see that right there. So right now I have the 1-inch studs, and I'm going to show you basically 1-inch studs are 1-inch spacers are pointless for vehicles that have studs. They probably make a lot of sense for vehicles that are bolt-on, like Volkswagen or Audi or BMW, that the wheels bolt on instead of having studded spindles or rotors. And I'll show you that right now. All right, now with the wheel out of the way, let me show you what I'm talking about. Bolt versus stud. So what I mean is basically you have this 1-inch spacer right here, but the studs from the actual spindle or rotor stick out. See that? So when you put the lug nuts on, you end up having the rim sit against that edge right there. So these 1-inch spacers don't make sense for vehicles that have bolts, or studs rather. If it's a bolt-on wheel like BMW or other German vehicles like Volkswagen or Audi, it probably makes sense. These don't for Ford, Nissan, Chevy, basically American-made vehicles or Japanese vehicles that have studded spindles or studded rotors. So I'm going to go ahead and take this side off. Okay, so now you see 1-inch spacer, 2-inch spacer, you see the difference there, and then 1.5 inches. So the biggest difference is that these 1-inch spacers, like I said, probably only good for German vehicles or the vehicles that use the bolt-in type wheels. We're going to go with this style here. So now I'm going to put those 1.5 inch ones on. All right, so I'm going to install the 1.5 inch spacer right now with a 12 millimeter by 1.25 studs. Like we said, we had on there earlier, like you saw at the beginning of the video, it already had an 1-inch spacer, but it was kind of acting like 1.5 inches because the rim was sitting against the actual studs and lug nuts, not the actual spacer. You want the rim to sit flush against the face of the spacer. You want that rim to sit flush on there. So I'm going to go ahead and install this real quick. Put the wheel on. And we should be good to go. So you can see there, the stud does not stick out past the 1.5 inch spacer. Take the lug nuts and put them on. So without these spacers, the rim actually hits this, the caliper, and this is a big 4-piston caliper.
Oh yeah.
So the
It's
without
white. It's white.
it's a huge caliper, so the rims hit that.
Yeah.
You know. And I plan to take those off to paint them to make them look better, but not today. Today we're just working on spacers. So these you can put on with this. It's these you have to use the wrench for. Spacers on, lug nuts are not sticking out, or excuse me, the lug studs are not sticking out. Put the rim back on, and we should be good. Let's take a look at it. There it is. All right. Lower the arm down on that, because it's going to hit the bumper. There you go.
The black one doesn't look too bad, rather.
Yeah, but the black one has the spacer that's the touching the studs. Yeah. Okay. That's it for this one. I'm going to go ahead and repeat it around all 3 other sides.
It's showing. Showing you working.
Can you give me the other new one out of that box then?
Yeah.
Can't really tell with this here because the bumper's off the car. But over here it looks good with this.
Yeah. It will be about the same.
Nice. Just to give you a little bit of a visual of what I was talking about on the spacer against the lug nuts and not the actual back of the spacer for these 1-inch spacers. So you can see in there, see how it's sitting not against the actual spacer because it's pressed against the lug nuts. Let's see if you can see it here on an angle. You can see the lug nuts sitting right there for the spacer. So that's what I'm talking about. And on this one, I have a 1-inch spacer, as you can see right here, and then I have a 1/4-inch washer spacer. I was trying to use that to see if it would solve the problem of this gap, and it did not. So let's go ahead and remove this one. You can see here I had a spacer with a washer to try to make it, and it still didn't make it for the clearance. Oh, capsada then. Watch yourself. Let's see if I can get these on there. I'm hoping I can. This one seems to be doing fine.
From the other ones, don't do it.
I don't know. But if I take one off at a time and replace it with these, I'll probably be fine. So what I'm doing on this side, guys, is I'm actually putting it back with the swine bolts to see if it works. For some reason I tried it on that rear one I just had on the opposite side, and these spline bolts weren't going on. So they seem to be doing just fine over here. And I'd rather be putting these on. Down on the second drawer of the gray toolbox, the second drawer, second one on the top, there's a bunch of these black ones in there.
Okay.
Can you grab those? Yeah, these work fine. That's 4 of them on here already.
You want me to bring it all?
Yeah, you can bring me 6. Yeah, yeah. I think I have 5 on top of the trunk of the white car. The white Nissan?
Yeah.
I think there's 4 or 5 of them on top of the trunk.
Yeah, you do. I'll put them inside there too.
Well, I'm gonna need them for the car anyway, so I'm gonna need them for this anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So I was able to get all these on. All these black ones went on. I just have one more. You give me one more, and I'll do it with all 5. See if I can put the last one on. If it works, it should work on the back, right? And all the rest of the car. I'd rather have these than those big ass Allen head bolts. Yeah. See? That's all 5. I like these better because not only is it easier because it's a spline bolt, but also
It looks better too.
well, it's an acorn bolt. When you look at them,
Yeah.
the acorn shape that holds the rim better.
Yeah.
The other one was like a cylinder shape.
Yeah.
These actually sit in there.
No, but you got something to put on the knees, and you.
I know. I don't even know where it is. Can you? Oh, you know what it is? Next to the radio, Dad. Next to the radio. Remember?
Yeah.
I'm already getting my knees dirty, and I got knee pads. You see it next to the radio on the top left?
Yeah.
Toot sush. Thank you. All right. That one is on there. Perfectly.
One over here. Yes.
Are those?
I got it.
You got it? Yeah, the spline nuts worked on this. So. Yeah, so nice.
Yeah.
And this acts as a key. All right, last side. This side actually had the spline nuts on it also. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these guys off. This should be a quick swap. So this one doesn't have a spacer, but it does have a washer.
Yeah.
See? Right. All right. doesn't like to go on the back. They were just on. All right, so I've been all complete with installing the 1.5-inch spacers. I actually came back to the driver's side and swapped out those big Allen bolts with the spline bolts, like you see there. So those have all been replaced. You can see the no gaps. Wheels are sitting good. Nice line. You can see along the rear quarter like that. Sits nice. So right now the rear bumper's off the car because I'm still need to paint it and remount it, but we're done.
Close that light over there, right, Robert?
Mm-hmm.
Light.
Yeah. This fender still needs to come off to be painted. You can see the spacers are on. So basically what's left on this car is remove this fender, remove the front bumper, and paint the fender and both front and rear bumper covers. Put them back on the car and any touch-up scratches, stuff like that. And this car will be ready for the road. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please subscribe and reach out if you have any comments or questions. Thank you. Bye-bye.